Hello, and today I'm here with Jordan Freed of Hedera Hashgraph. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So could you tell me a little bit about the problem you're trying to solve with Hedera Hashgraph?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Hedera Hashgraph is building the world's only, first and only mission-critical enterprise-grade public network. The problem with what you see in the marketplace today is there's security vulnerabilities, there's scalability concerns, and you don't have the type of throughput required to build real, truly mission-critical enterprise-grade applications. So Hedera Hashgraph is addressing that head-on by introducing to the world the first platform of that kind.
So it sounds like Hedera Hashgraph is trying to solve some of the big problems in this blockchain space.
That's right. And Hedera Hashgraph is, again, as I mentioned, while we're introducing this truly enterprise-grade public network, we ourselves don't consider, we're not a blockchain in the pure sense technologically. But when you have a blockchain-like public network, like what you see in the marketplace today, it comes with a lot of problems that are created based on the inefficiencies of that technology. So Dr. Baird, you asked the problem, technologically speaking, Dr. Baird has solved a very hard technical problem, which is how do we achieve consensus at scale? And then when we go to market, and what we're taking it to market as is this mission-critical enterprise-grade public network.
So what makes this Hashgraph so special for solving this problem?
So the Hashgraph consensus algorithm is the most elegant and simplified solution to this problem of distributed consensus. If you go back 30 some years, there's a lot of academic literature about what the best solution to this Byzantine general's problem would be. And the proposed solution by academics is something called a pure voting-based system, where literally everybody in a community, every computer would submit a vote as to yes or no, is this the state of the account balances on the network. While that's the best solution in terms of security, they actually came up with a term for it. It's called asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance. It's impractical from a bandwidth perspective. It's never been deployed, so it's purely theoretical. But it has the best security. You cannot do better than asynchronous Byzantine fault tolerance. And there's a lot of literature surrounding that. There's even a math proof, and we've put that math proof in the white paper. What Lehman figured out how to do, what Dr. Baird did back in 2015, which amounted to patents being awarded here in the United States, and is really a fundamental breakthrough in computer science. What Dr. Baird figured out how to do was to achieve the security properties of a pure voting-based system, but without actually voting. So in short, he has come up with a solution to achieve this asynchronous Byzantine fault-tolerant security at scale while no votes are being cast on the network. What this has yielded is hundreds of thousands of transactions per second in a single shard, really, truly enterprise-grade security. We have fairness, where we can generate fair orders of transactions, allowing people to build, auctions and matching platforms and things where you need fair transaction ordering. So all of this is now possible because of Hashgraph's elegant and simplified solution to achieving this problem.
And is this system operational right now?
So yes, when we talk about Hashgraph, nothing is theoretical. Hashgraph is implemented in software. We first took it to market in 2015 through a company called Swirls, where our approach to the market was to get enterprise validation by getting some customers, many of whom we've already announced. CU Ledger is probably the most high-profile one, where they're using Hashgraph to build a permission network, on top of which they're building general purpose arbitrary applications for themselves, like fraud detection tools, things like that. What we've decided to do with it at Hedera is focused on addressing the public marketplace, these public networks. And we only announced that we're doing this just this past March. So we are just now releasing the first version of our APIs to developers and people in our ecosystem. But there's over 5,000 developers in our Discord community, which is our developer community, that are in queue to receive APIs. And then at our developer conference, Hedera 18, which is just this October, and you can go to hedera18.com and learn more. But at this developer conference, we will be doing a public release of APIs so people can start to develop on test networks and eventually migrate those applications over to the mainnet.
And would this be considered a public network or a private network?
So Hedera Hashgraph is a public network. And we are, again, we are building the world's first enterprise-grade public network. So our philosophy on this space is that you will see mission-critical applications and mission-critical enterprises launching dApps, as the market has come to call them, but they're not going to do it on a network that doesn't have the throughput, the security, or the fairness that what you see in the marketplace lacks today.
So can I run, would it be called Node myself?
It's a great question. So on day one, you can't. There's a hard problem you have to solve, which is how do you birth a network like Hedera? How do you start it? We are a proof of stake network, and we do have a governance body that has multi-billion-dollar multinationals that come together that make decisions for the network. They're actually standing up the first shard. So we start with one shard, and then eventually we move to a multi-sharded network where, yes, you and anybody else can run a node on the network. On day one, that's not possible. We fully intend and expect to move there as quickly as possible. So multi-sharded network is the goal. We see a future. Our vision is a future where, yes, anybody can be a node and anybody has access to these APIs to be able to build and deploy these mission-critical enterprise-grade applications.
And is this an open source project or a closed source project?
It's a great question. And the answer, I think, is one that not enough people have in this space. We don't think you can do a public network well being open source, open license, the way the market is doing it today. What that has yielded is a lot of chaos and confusion, where we have core developers fighting over who's the true vision of the white paper and who can execute on it better. We've seen platforms fork, and the integrity of those mainnets are compromised. So what we've pursued is a hybrid model where the code base is entirely open. Literally anybody can review the code base. They can trust it. They can verify that it works. We use formal methods, and we have computers checking our code. So literally computers checking our math proofs, which I think is a level that others just haven't gone that deep in the space yet. So Dr. Baird is very proud of that. But we are open source in the sense that everybody can review the code, but we're not open license in that anybody can fork it. Here's the good news, though. You don't need a license to build on the network. The APIs themselves are open in that anybody can make API calls and can leverage the platform so long as they have the platform token and can submit API calls to pay for those services.
So what have been some of the challenges of developing this project?
It's a big vision. It's a lot to even communicate, especially in a short period of time like what we have today. I think the challenge is we've had to go from a project that was relatively obscure just over a year ago to being very well known now. And that's created a lot of chatter in the community. I think a lot of people, when they heard of Hashgraph, got this impression that we were a consensus algorithm for private permission-based networks. And that's factually inaccurate. What Hashgraph is it's a consensus algorithm that can be used in a private or public network. And what Hedera Hashgraph is the world's first public implementation of the Hashgraph consensus algorithm. And I think that's a big distinction, and that's an important public utility that is lacking in the world today. Getting this network up is only half of the battle. Partnering with enterprises and getting real organizations to build and deploy is the other bit. I would argue that there's really no enterprise-grade dApp in the marketplace today. And I think that there's a lot of misinformation about what a dApp is and even how to leverage these platforms. We are very proud that we have over 100 organizations that identify as dApps in our ecosystem, and over 5,000 developers. We're also working with many multi-billion-dollar enterprises on their proof of concepts, which will eventually roll over and be rolled out to the mainnet. So that's really where our focus is aligned.
So as far as public perception goes, I've seen a number of people kind of concerned about patents entering into this space. And it seems like it's a big trend. A lot more people are getting patents on things than maybe they did previously. Would you mind addressing that, about how that affects the community?
Yeah, it's been a controversial topic, but we don't hide from it, and I'm happy to address it head on. I mean, patents, people argue that patents go against the whole philosophy of the space. And I would say that while anarchy has been an interesting catalyst for change, and we've seen it certainly introduce some of the networks we have today, we don't have stability. We have chaos, we have confusion, we have regulators that don't trust some of the platforms that exist today, and we have politicians that don't know what to think about it. What we have done is we've created a mechanism a legal mechanism, and we also have technical mechanisms for the mainstream. I'm talking about my grandma and your grandma, and really the mainstream, to trust the integrity of these main networks. So we've introduced stability in governance, stability through a patent, where, again, we have technical controls like how we can compel the entire network to update their software. But we also have the legal control of having this intellectual property to prevent an organization from forking our main network. So you cannot fork Hedera Hashgraph and say, I'm Hedera Hashgraph Cache, right? You can't do that. That's not going to exist. And here's why that's really important. If you are building a security token platform where you're issuing security tokens, and maybe the securities reference, these tokens reference some real physical property. Let's say it's a piece of art, like a masterpiece from Picasso. Maybe you're using this ERC 721, this non-fungible token format. If that platform forks, is the NFT on the main network, or the fork version of the main network the actual non-fungible token, this actual unique token? The application developer would have to decide, that you'd have a double spend problem there. You create a lot of confusion when you have forking. And now there's this argument that forking creates evolved platforms and it's evolutionary. But I'd argue that most of the forks, if not all of the forks that we've seen in the marketplace today, haven't really evolved platforms all that much. So we're pursuing a hybrid model, as I mentioned, where, yes, we have a patent, but we don't have a patent to stop you from building. We have a patent to protect the main network so that we can really build a robust dApp ecosystem, and developers can know that what they're building and what they're deploying will only ever live in one place.
So it seems like you're using intellectual property to help bring more stability to the network.
That's exactly right. That's the intent here.
So what are some of your plans going forward?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, we have this really exciting developer conference just in the middle of October. It's called Hedera 18, and we are doing one of the world's first truly globally distributed hackathons, where we have locations in Tel Aviv and in Sao Paulo and in Paris and London. And developers from all over the world are going to come together and build dApps. They're going to build applications that leverage the platform. Now, the real differentiator, we didn't really get into what our platform does. It's different than the rest of the marketplace. We offer smart contracts. We do it in Solidity, the way the market's doing it today, although we think we can do it better in the future. But I won't get into that now. We do have this platform token, this cryptocurrency. And what's really unique about that is it has native micropayments built into it. I'll touch on that in a second. And the final bit is we do have a fast copyable file system that can be used to store hashes that reference files, or even files themselves, just in the shared state of all the nodes on the network. So all of these are services that you pay for on the platform, and we think those are disruptive. Our real differentiator is micropayments. And I want to share with you a vision of a world that's empowered by micropayments. Micropayments will disrupt entire industries. It will disrupt ad tech. It will disrupt compensation models. We have issues right now with ad blocking, where a lot of really savvy internet users are installing the Brave browser. which natively blocks advertisements. Or there's a great Chrome extension called AdBlocker Pro, where if you download this Chrome extension, you put it in your Chrome browser, it will literally block all display advertisements on the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal. And publishers are losing tens of millions of dollars annually by just lost revenue from not being able to charge advertisers per impression because they're losing all those impressions. So, of course, you have these payment walls and these donation buttons when you go to Wikipedia that pop up like, hey, pay us, give us $6. But we really see a world where you can attach a micropayment to an API call. And that API call may be, hey, New York Times, I want to download this page. And maybe I pay them a millionth of a penny to download that page. That API call could be you having a bit of data in your database and me just wanting to send you an API call saying, hey, I'm an application developer. I want to use your microservice. Let me send you a micropayment to use it. So we really think micropayments is where the future lies. And that is our big differentiator because we've gotten it down to an affordable amount where on other networks, you're going to have transaction fees that approach $1, sometimes even more. But we figured out a way to technically, if we wanted to do it for a millionth of a penny. And I think that's the real breakthrough here. So that's a big part of our future. We really think that the burden is on us to really help educate the market on how to leverage micropayments. And that will be a big focus of our hackathons, as well as future applications and partnerships that come out in the future.
And part of the reason why you can do those micropayments on your system is because you have a lot more bandwidth. You can do more transactions per second.
Sure. So I would say more bandwidth. We're limited by the same bandwidth that everybody else has. But yes, throughput, if you mean by bandwidth throughput, yes, we've enabled, because of Lehman's elegant solution, we've achieved the bandwidth limit in terms of throughput because no vote is being submitted. So if bandwidth gets faster globally, if they figure out a way to come up with a better underwater cable pipe that's going to get the world more bandwidth, we can only get faster, which is great. So today we are restricted by the bandwidth limit, and that's incredible for us and for this network. And yes, that is really the enabler of these micropayments.
Well, it sounds like a very interesting project. Was there anything that I should have asked you that maybe I missed?
Well, we seem to have covered a bunch. Nothing's popping up immediately right now, but thanks for having me on. And your audience can go to hashgraph.com, of course, to learn more about Hedera Hashgraph and what we're working on. I would also highlight that the developer community is this open, creative community where there are sub-channels and you get rewarded for what you contribute. So our project really functions like an open source community where you can propose changes and you can propose feedback and requests. And just like an open source community, not everything's going to get merged into the code base, but we have a growing developer ecosystem. The only other thing I would also mention is instead of talking to a guy like me, I don't actually write code for Hedera. We're scaling a team of people called developer advocates. I don't see anybody else doing this in the market. For those that are interested in building applications, or for those listening that work at a company that may be interested in building an application, we have a team of developers. We call them developer advocates, and they are experts in our code base and our APIs. And they are literally there as a resource for this community that's formed around our project for people to leverage and learn how they can integrate our APIs into their code base. So and the best way to get in touch with those developer advocates is in that Discord community that I mentioned. So if you go to hashgraph.com/Discord, or just go to our website and go to the footer, you'll see a little logo, a little icon for Discord, and you can click that and it'll take you to that community.
And I'll make sure I have all those links in the show notes.
Great. Well, thank you.
So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You are a podcast listener and you're interested in crypto. Otherwise, why would you be listening to this show, right? Have you tried looking for new crypto and blockchain podcasts to listen to? If you've used Google, then you've probably found a whole bunch of clickbait articles. Top 10 lists that just list the same podcasts over and over again. And most of those podcasts aren't even active anymore. If you use iTunes, then you probably got a whole bunch of irrelevant results. The iTunes search function is absolutely awful. It's kind of like using Alta Vista in the 1990s. Keyword stuffing has made it almost unusable. So I made a site to fix this problem. Just go to crypto.podcastlist.net. On the site, you'll find a comprehensive list of all the active podcasts covering the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and other decentralization technologies. This is not a curated list of my favorite shows. This list is intended to be complete. I want to list every single show that is focused on this industry. I've got about 75 active shows on the list already. Please let me know if I have missed any shows. This list is also covered by a Creative Commons license, so feel free to reuse it and share it. Check out crypto.podcastlist.net if you are looking for new crypto and blockchain podcasts. And if you have your own show, please check and make sure you are listed. Once again, the site is crypto.podcastlist.net. Please check it out and tell me what you think.